Welcome to Thrivers Ed, the podcast that's all about giving you the practical, no-nonsense advice you need to level up your life and business. I'm your host, Marcy Rossi, success coach, business strategist, and alcohol-free enthusiast. If you're ready to crush your goals, optimize your productivity, and live your best, most authentic life, then you're in the right place. Each week, we'll dive into topics like the psychology of success, practical strategies to boost your performance, and the unexpected ways living alcohol-free can elevate your life. Whether you're looking to boost your business, improve your health, or simply become a better version of yourself, Thrivers Ed is here to help you do just that. So grab your iced coffee, buckle up, and let's get thriving. Hey there. Not sure how your summer's been going, but I have been in the midst of planning a pretty big event in October while I'm actually going to be gone for 3 weeks between September and October. So I'm not even going to be here for a lot of it. Still trying to take this big event in October. And so with all of this going on, of course, my brain is like, what other problems can we start to investigate? So that's what I want to look at today, because I decided that I wanted to start looking at my lead magnet performance. So I've had quite a few lead magnets over the years, different topics, different styles of lead magnet. And I realized that I've been looking at some of these statistics generally, but not really doing the work to strategically go in and review how they're actually doing. So yes, I can see quickly at a glance how the automations, which is what MailerLite calls the sequence that happens after someone opts into something, I can see how the automations are performing, like in terms of open rate and click rate, but not really diving in to see the unsubscribes, the conversion rate, the email performance individually. So that's what I sat down and did a few days ago. And so here's what that ended up looking like for me. I took each of my primary lead magnets. There are some others that are probably somewhere on my website. They're not linked anywhere, but I'm not looking at those. I'm looking at those that are still actively available on my website somewhere. For each of those, I took a look at the total website visits. So how many website visits did I get to that landing page, wherever it is that they opt in, and then how many people actually signed up. Over time, maybe I don't have all those people still on my list, but I looked at the past year, said how many visits did I get to a page and how many people signed up. Now, the first part, that visits, I look at visits and not users, because what this gives me is a clear idea of how many people visited that page more than once, but then either eventually opted in or never did. And that to me can help me understand that maybe there's something on that page that's missing in terms of the compelling factor. There's an opportunity there to have the visits and the total number of users as close as possible. We don't want necessarily people to have to visit our page multiple times for them to opt in for something simple like a lead magnet. Now that may happen with your programs and your offers, especially higher ticket items, but for something where I'm only asking a small ask, your email address, we want those users and visits to be as close as possible. And obviously we want not just a lot of visitors to the page, but we want a lot of conversions. So let's say you had 1,000 people visit that page and 500 people actually opted in. 500 divided by 1,000 is 50%. So you have 50% of the people that hit that page are actually converting. And a lot of mine are at this mark or above. One of them is 48.65, which tells me that there's probably a little bit that I can adjust there. My highest one is 64.37%, and my lowest one is actually 10%. This is not something that I was aware of, but definitely something I want to get up. And I will say that this particular lead magnet has really small numbers involved because it's something I created for an old podcast episode. So I talked about business metrics in one of my earlier episodes and made a lead magnet specifically for that, but I don't really promote it anywhere else. And so, just a couple of visits can make a huge difference in the percentages when we're talking about that versus, another lead magnet I have where I've had thousands and thousands of people hit that page. And so this gives me a much clearer rate of what the average conversion rate is for that page. So looked at the total number of leads, the total conversion rate for each of these items. Up next was the unsubscribe rate. So I looked at the people that unsubscribed in that particular sequence and you made a note of this, the rate there, right? So I looked at it in the sequence, not over the lifetime of the user, because it's hard to know at that point what it was that specifically caused someone to unsubscribe. I want to know, is this sequence working? Not, is my long-term nurturing strategy working? That is something that's important, but not what I'm looking at for today. So of my lead magnets, most of them were either 0%, so no one unsubscribed in the sequence, or they were around 1% to 2%. The only one that wasn't had an unsubscribe rate of 4.5%. And this one is actually because it's from an old business model. So this is my what's your signature mocktail quiz, like what signature mocktail matches your personality. And so now that I am talking about business instead of alcohol-free living, I do expect to see a higher unsubscribe rate, because the first email is like, here's your personality type. And then the second and the third go into why I decided to start my own business and here's why it helped people support business. There's not a very clear tie-in between what they opted into and what I do. I didn't take this off the website because it's only 4.5%. Like, there's still a good number of people that do not unsubscribe when they go through that sequence. But just letting you know, this one was very expected that I would have a higher unsubscribe rate, because there is a mismatch between what it is that I actually do and what my lead magnet is. If you're seeing a higher unsubscribe rate, like something over 2%, it's time to start investigating why that is. Is there something in particular in that email sequence that is turning people off? Or is there perhaps a mismatch between what it is that they downloaded and what it is that you actually do? And when it comes to that, I think we can start to look at a little bit more details. So I look at each individual email at that point. So most of my email sequences have between 3 to 5 emails. Because I actually did this strategy review, I realized that one of my lead magnets has no email welcome sequence. Like, it has the very first email where I deliver the thing and nothing else. And you probably guessed that was the lead magnet that I pulled together for a podcast episode that I had not been sending very many people through. So this was a very easy win for adjusting this particular sequence. I can add more emails to see whether or not these emails are leading people in the direction that I want them to be going. But in general, we'll say that I had 3 to 5 emails, and I just looked at the first 3 for a lot of these, since that tends to be the normal number that I stick with before I move them into a different nurturing sequence. So for each of these, I looked at the open rate, the click rate, and the conversion rate. So for a lot of my email sequences, I don't necessarily immediately sell them into something. I start to tease them into the next step. That next step may be something that they need to purchase, or not need to purchase. It may be something that they might want to purchase based on their previous behavior, or it may be moving into another free offer before they're ready for my higher ticket services. So I don't expect for some of these to have a massive conversion rate unless the item I'm promoting is something easier to say yes to. Like, it's a little more challenging to give someone a free item and then ask if they want to pay, $4,000 for custom services than it is to give someone a free item and ask if they want to pay $44 for a digital product. And I like to play around with these. I do not offer the exact same thing in each of my lead magnet sequences. I'm pretty sure there's a different next step for each of these, which I think is also important, because if you opted into maybe the website checklist, an offer that helps support build your website, like the Fast Pass, where I'll actually do it for you, makes a lot more sense than like the podcast pitch power pack. Like, I don't know that you're necessarily interested in pitching podcasts simply because you want to optimize your website. So that next step is very tailored to what the original opt-in is. So again, we're looking at the open rate for each of these, the click-through rate for each of these, and the conversion rate if that's applicable to you in your welcome sequence if you're selling something, which I recommend you should at least provide some kind of next step, whether that's a free offer or a paid offer. Hopefully it's paid. All right, so where do I get these numbers? Well, the total leads I get from the Google Analytics, that's what I use to review the performance of my individual visits and web activity. And then all of the other email stats are right from my email service provider, which is MailerLite. So that's where I can see the total number of people that have ever opted in. I can see the conversion rates, I can see the unsubscribe rates, etc. So now we have our numbers. And I would like to encourage you to do this maybe once a month. Go in once a month, update the numbers, the total number of visits, the leads, unsubscribe rates, etc. for each of your lead magnets, which of course gets more complicated the more lead magnets you have. And then we can work on improving one thing at a time. So what are we improving? Well, it depends what your problem is. Let's say you have lots of visits, but not a lot of opt-ins. So that conversion rate is lower than 50%. Different things you can do here. You can work on your headline so that it's more compelling, that it matches what it is that you're actually offering. You can try adding some short bullet points to make it clear what it is they're actually going to get out of this. We can simplify the form. Like if you're asking for first name, last name, phone number, date of birth, pet's weight, etc., let's make it as easy as possible. I normally like to just ask for first name and email. That is sufficient for most of the communications that I need. So trying to keep your form as simple as possible. If you're asking for a lot of details, the less likely people are to convert. You can try replacing the text on your button. So instead of submit, maybe it's get the checklist now or start improving my website today or whatever it is. And then the other thing I want you to do is take a look at this exact page on your phone. So if you're using something like Google Analytics and maybe even your web host, you should be able to see how many people are visiting on a desktop versus on a phone. And if you aren't making sure that it looks good on your phone, I think you're going to be missing out on a lot of customers because a lot of people look at things on their phone, especially if you're running Facebook ads, since most people tend to use Instagram and Facebook from their mobile devices. So do the phone test, open up that page on your phone, make sure all the spacing looks good, make sure everything is laid out well, and then start to see what happens, right? Maybe we change just one or two things so that it's actually working, and then look at it again in a month. I will say the best way to do this is to just change one thing so that if that specific thing made a difference. But honestly, if you don't have the time for this, or if it's a really low conversion rate right now, changing multiple things and then incrementally improving, maybe you only change one thing the next time to see if that made a difference. That can help get you up there in terms of your conversions. So you're getting lots of visitors, but not a lot of opt-ins, so your conversion rate is low. Number 2, you have good conversion rate, but you have high unsubscribes in your welcome sequence. So different things you can do here. First up, in your first email, keep it simple. Just do what you said you were going to do. Deliver the lead magnet, give them their quiz results, show them the link to the video, whatever that thing is. Just do what it is you said you're going to do. Keep it short and to the point. Another problem could be that maybe it's like me, you have a lead magnet that doesn't really tie into what you're doing, and it's up to you if you want to scrap that lead magnet, or like what I did, I revised the rest of the welcome sequence to help them understand why it is that I shifted in this new direction, so that the people that stick around understand really my history and where I'm going from here. So I think that's a stronger case to keep them. So look at what exactly that lead magnet is. Does it align with what it is that you do now? And does it actually do what it is you said it was going to do? Right? If you said you're going to give them a checklist and you give them this very basic 3 checklist items, I wouldn't be surprised if they were going to unsubscribe over that. So make sure that your lead magnet itself and the emails that are delivering them are really useful and deliver what it is that you said you're going to deliver. Now, if your open rate for emails are low, this is a little simpler. It's probably your subject line. So it can be fun to be cutesy, but here's a place where you can play around and see if changing the subject line actually makes a difference. There are lots of resources out there to help you write compelling subject lines. Some tricks that I know have worked well for me when I use them sparingly. If I do it all the time, I don't think it's going to work, but putting an emoji into the subject line can help break it up between different things that people are getting, and using a person's name somewhere in the subject line can get their attention. If you do this all the time, it is not going to work. They're going to get annoyed with it, but just surprising them with something a little bit out of the ordinary can help attract someone's attention in their very busy inbox. All right, if they're opening the emails, but they are not clicking, the first step is, are you giving them something to click on? Sometimes we have emails that are just pure nurture. We don't really have anything that we're selling, and so we may not have an item for them to click on. I would still argue there's a possibility there to help them see what that next step is, even if we're not hard pitching it, like with a little PS or something in your signature that entices them. But it's okay if you don't have a click or a next step in every single email that you send. But if you do, we want to make sure that it's good. So the best ways to optimize this are to make sure you have a call to action in every email, and ideally one primary call to action throughout the email that you repeat multiple times. Maybe you have it as an embedded link, where you link the text itself. Maybe you have it as a button. Maybe you put it in your signature, focusing on that one activity you want them to do. The reason I say primarily one activity is I am a big fan of having a signature with different options behind it, of different ways to work with you, and those are links. So technically there are more than one call to action in my emails, but my focus is normally on one main thing. I want them to do that one step and then repeating it so that they're actually ready to take that action. We can make it very specific, that call to action, right? Instead of just like visit my website, maybe it's download this template now, watch this 3-minute training, click here to submit a request for me to audit your website. Like whatever the call to action is, being very specific versus click here, submit, download now, whatever. If we are getting good opens, getting good clicks, but we're not actually seeing those conversions, let's make sure that what we're asking for as that next step is something that makes sense and is not too big, right? I brought this up before when I said having a lead magnet to like a $4,000 offer. It can work. It's not going to work on most people unless your lead magnet is just so good, people want more from you. So what is that next step that we can move them into that's a little bit easier, right? Maybe it's a mini training. Maybe it's a demo. Maybe it's a mini course. Maybe it's what's that next piece that they can take to keep building on that know, like, trust factor with you. Maybe we need to add in some more confidence builders, right? Like a little case study or an email that goes over some testimonials, not just like blanket, this person said this and this person said this, but really showing them the transformation that's possible when they take that next step, making sure that we're very clear about who this next step is for and what the outcomes are so they can help visualize themselves having that result and that it's actually going to work for them. So that is where we're working on our copy here, making sure that our people have everything they need to take that next step and that the next step makes sense for where they are. Okay, so your Thrive in 5 for today. Number 1 is to set up how you're going to track these things. Mine right now is in a Google Sheet. You can use a Google Sheet, an Excel doc, a piece of paper, doesn't matter. But we want to have some place that we're going to actually start tracking the numbers. Number 2 is going to be to set this document up appropriately. So what we want to have is our total number of visits to that landing page for each lead magnet, the number of opt-ins, so the number of people that hit that page and actually opted into your sequence, the conversion rate, which is a formula, right? It's total number of opt-ins divided by total number of visits, the unsubscribe rate for that sequence, and then we want to look at the individual emails in your sequence. So the open rate, the click-through rate, and the conversion rate of each of the emails in your sequence. Do you have to have all of these numbers? No, this is what mine currently looks like. And I can tell you there are a ton of other numbers that you could be looking at, which maybe I'll do another episode on later. But if we have some basics here, then we can start to work on improving it. So number 1, figure out how you're going to start tracking it. Number 2, set up your tracker with the key numbers that you need. Number 3, go add those numbers, right? So go pull all of those numbers. I did mine over the last year, and then I'm going to be updating those monthly. I would hopefully have had some back numbers, but I didn't. I just started doing this, and I am kind of embarrassed that it took me this long to actually get this set up. So I did it over the year, and then I have a task going in to update this going forward. So number 3, add in all of those numbers for whatever period makes sense for you. I did mine for a year. If you want, you could start clean and just say what happened over the last month, and then next month look at the following month and see what changes there. But pick your period and start pulling those numbers in. Number 4, set a task to do this routinely. So whether that's once a month, every couple months, whatever, have some tasks to go in and update the numbers. I promise you it's a lot easier than it sounds. Once you know where those numbers are found, you can really easily adjust them going forward. So pull together the numbers. And then number 5 is to pick one thing and test an improvement. So it could be very easy. If your mobile version looks like junk, fix that. That would be the number 1 priority recommendation that I have for you. But if you're looking at those numbers, pick something that looks problematic. Is your conversion rate too low? Is your open rate too low? Is your click-through rate too low? For one lead magnet and go fix it. So pick one of your lead magnets, pick one stat that you want to try to improve and go make one change to see how that's going to affect your conversions and opt-ins and all of your metrics going forward. So that is your Thrive in 5 for today. I can't emphasize enough the importance of knowing what our data tells us because that's how we get the best results. I realize that tracking data is not as much fun for everybody as it is for me, but if you want to see the results, if you want to know why something's not working, you have to lift the lid. You have to take a look at what those numbers are actually telling you, and then you get to play. Like, think of this as an experiment. What might happen if you change a subject line? What might happen if you revise a call to action? And hopefully we are starting to see some positive trends going forward. So with that, I want you to go take a look at how your lead magnets are doing. Let me know if you have any questions or concerns. You can text the show. And until next time, keep thriving.